And welcome to Fantasy Football G. It is going to be Game Week 23 just around the corner, guys. And we want to know what are the best transfers to take in. So we're going to be going through a transfer strategy along with two of the best transfers to bring in for Game Week 23, players in form, as well as looking at their fixtures. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys. Firstly, we're going to talk about strategy. You're going to do this a lot more differently. I firstly want to go into strategy, and then we're going to take a look at the players who are in form as well as the most transfers in and out, and just speak about which players are the best to go for. And then we're also going to go through my free hit team to sort of emphasize these are the best players for this game week. And then as well, we're going to go through a free hit differential team so that you guys can see which are the best differential players in each position that you can actually go for those who want to gain rank. Now that goes straight into the transfer strategy and FPL strategy, which I'm going for currently right now is to gain a lot of places. And I think you would notice a lot as well that there's not a lot of points between you and almost like the next 10,000 to 100,000, and that's almost everywhere from 1 to 10 million to 10 million. And so there's a lot of opportunity for you to actually gain if you select the right transfers, the right differential players. And I think for me, what I've learned this season, again, I've mentioned before, is that every season there's a battle between form and fixture. Like sometimes players who are in form just beat players who have the better fixture. Sometimes there are seasons where players who have a better fixture run will actually beat having players who have been in form. And so this season so far, it's still the same, and it can change during the season. I've seen that many times, but form for me, what I've seen has always been beating fiction. Of course, if you can get both, then that's perfect. And so I think if you're trying to gain rank, which is what I'm trying to do, pick differential players here and there. Have your foundation, your backbone, your spine of your team with, of course, the players that will help you maintain your rank and at the same time stay in that position that you are and not drop. Don't have an entirely different team from the FPL community, which is just gonna honestly make you plummet even more. Have your main structure, your spine, and that of course would be your Salah, your Palmer, your Isak, your Liverpool defender, of course, and your Arsenal defender. I think that's right now the actual spine of everybody's team, which is somewhat performing and is in form, as well of course a next to Isak is a performing striker. So I was gonna say Wood, but yeah, it could be almost anyone because I think the strikers this season have really been performing. And in and around there, of course, you can see most of the times we are playing 3-4-3. So there's that third striker position, which should be your differential. So Watkins was a great differential. In the midfield, I've only mentioned two players, which is a Mo Salah and a Paul Palmer. So you have two midfield players, in fact, three positions, which of course you can bring in, which can be your differentials. And then of course in the defense, as I've mentioned, there are people there with the Arsenal and a Liverpool defender. And of course now, Forest and Newcastle coming into the better defensive teams of late, then you, out of the five position, you have one position which could be that differential position, so that differential player. And so those are the players you need in order to really gain. And of course, you can go differently in terms of variance as to how many differential players you want, depending on where you are and how much rank you want to gain. But that's my approach right now when it comes to gaining rank. Now, when it comes to maintaining rank, I think, of course, it's really finding the strong template, because there is a template, of course, but then there's a strong template. The players who are actually performing and not just the team of players that people actually have. So I think the strong template right now, of course, in the front, of course, would be your Wood, your Isak, of course, still being there. He's got a good fixture as well. In the midfield, of course, you've got your Salah. Of course, you've got your Palmer. Yes, he blanked in the previous game, but previous 2 games there, he was scoring 10 points in each game. And then you have players such as, I think, an Mbuemo or a Gordon that were somewhat in the template, as well as a Rodgers as well, were somewhat in the template as well. In and out there performing as well. And then in the defense, we've seen a double Arsenal, which hasn't really been working. That goes why to say, I say strong template, is to see which defensive players actually perform well. And so Aina's actually crept into that actual strong template, but we have to now take note of the actual fixtures that they have, Nottingham Forest has. And so we'll actually get into that point right now. And then and then of course you have your Liverpool defender there. You could have 1 or 2 as well. And so it's basically just having that strong template, and so that when those players perform, you don't drop at all significantly. And when they do perform, you don't drop because you have too much of a differential team. In actual fact, you rise because you have that team, that good spine of a template, as well as those little few differentials. And maybe I'd say out of 11, 2 and not more than 3 in the team that actually help you gain more points and widen the gap from the positions that you're actually are. And so I think, to put it simple, in a differential team, I think you should have a differential team of almost 5. I think almost 5, definitely 4 players out of 11. And I think in a team in which you're trying to maintain position, I think you have to have a differential of about 2, nothing more than 3, just to keep it safe, nothing more than 3. So let's take a look at which transfers have been the most players transferred in and out, as well as who are the informed players, before we take a look at that actual team. But what I'd like to do as well is ask, guys, if you're really loving the content, please make sure you hit that like button, and also subscribe if you are loving the content. Really would appreciate it. There's more. I drop about 3 to 4 videos every week. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, guys. When the screen changes to this setup, oh man, that's when things go down. That's when things go down. So on screen, you'll see the goalkeepers, defenders, and midfielders and forwards, the top 5 informed players in each position. And below that, what I've done is I've put the fixtures there so that you can actually see the fixtures that are coming up as well. And then it's real interchange between the most transfers in, most transferred out. So already you can see there Clifford, Wood, Trent, Foden, Gakpo. Those are the players being transferred in, rightfully so, because you can see they are in the midst there of players who are in form. Foden really coming out of nowhere, which is very surprising, considering he hadn't been doing anything almost all season. But now it's been a real question as to whether or not we should bring him in. And I think you'll see with the fixtures that will pop up there. But the fixtures aren't necessarily all that great. So look, I just said, form beats fixtures. And I think if you really want to go differential, then he's definitely one of those players that I pick out in the differential pool. Sticking with differential pool, Clivert, who's the first most transferred in. Very risky. I don't necessarily like his 2 fixtures that are up here now, Nottingham Forest first, and then because he's got 2 bad fixtures, which is Nottingham Forest first, and then he plays Liverpool. Then after those 2 fixtures, he actually plays Southampton, and then he plays Wolves at home. The thing that's nice about his fixtures, though, is that he's got 3 home fixtures out of 4. So I can see why a lot of players are moving to him, as well as the fact that he's got penalties, and of course the strikers are not necessarily there. So I see, I see. There's nothing to really say about that. Excuse me. I need to actually, I should have got myself some water. And I just to get myself some water. I'm like the Flash, you know. I just have it right here. So don't worry, I've taken a sip already. But let's jump right back into it. So Wood, I think, is essential in the sense that, you know, he's been performing. Another one who's been in form. He's just a good second striker because we all know we've already got Isak. And then Trent as well. We really just want to get those good defensive points along with the attacking threat that he also has. And then Gakpo as well. I don't think I need to really have a conversation about him. But he really becomes, I think, completes that trio that we all planning and thinking about, which is the best trio. And I think to answer you here, if you still have that question, in my opinion, that's really a Salah and that's a Gakpo, and then you have Trent as well. So if you can get to those guys, then of course get to those guys, budget willing. If not, then I mean, of course, it's a very different conversation there. I have the goalkeepers there because excuse me. Dubravka might not play, considering that Pope is somewhat coming back, but he's the best keeper, I think, for this game week. Of course, followed by Alisson playing against Ipswich. But I just wanted to also highlight which other keepers in form there. Henderson having 2 clean sheets back to back as well. And of course, Sells has just been performing great with that Nottingham Forest defense. So if, of course, in any case you are looking for an actual goalkeeper, then hey, you know, you've got a goalkeeper there. I think just to comment on Liverpool's defense, having got a clean sheet recently, they were showing me flashes and signs of what they started like in the beginning of the season. Alisson having come back from his injury, he wasn't necessarily the best, and Konate's now come back in as well. So I think it's very clear who the back four is, considering Bradley started in the Champions League this midweek. Trent is definitely going to be playing, and Tsimikas also started, and so Robinson will definitely play in that back line, as well as Kwanzaa having played in the Champions League. So going for the Liverpool defense, I think they're going back to what they used to, and I think it's the start of that. So if you want to hop onto that, I think this is the best time considering their fixtures right now. So yeah, I think also speaking about the strikers, because I think a lot of us are thinking about who's the best third striker right now. Mateta being in form, I think, is definitely still a good option considering the fixtures that he has. But you can see there the players that are in form are all significantly highly priced. So what I did for you guys actually as well is I also dropped this down to show you who are the top 10. So I'm showing you now the bottom 5 as well, so that you can also see who are the other cheaper options that you can actually get. I myself had Raul in the past game week. There's Gakpo, as I mentioned, in terms of form as well. You can also see Gordon in the midfielders section, and Mbuemo along with Ilanga and Gibbs performing for Nottingham Forest. And just sticking back to the strikers as well, João Pedro's there as another cheaper option. Liam Delap, not someone I necessarily go for, but in that game week 24, he does have Southampton, so maybe he is another nice asset to have. But I think Wisa's the best option to be going for in terms of a cheaper being less than 7 million option. Yeah, because he has some great fixtures going forward, of course, along with Mbuemo in the midfield there. And then in the defense, I think Mitchell has actually been playing better than Munoz. He's had more returns, but like just one more. But that's of recent. I just still feel like Munoz is a player with a lot more potential. He's just been really unlucky. And so I still favor Munoz over Mitchell. They are both priced at the same, so it's really your pick. Van Hek for me is really just featuring there, in all honesty. Robinson didn't make it. Van Hek really kept him out there as well. So yeah, you have your cheaper options there, guys. Yeah, so I think it's really your decision, your pick, and yeah, really decide what you think. So let's move on then, and we're going to take a look at the best players to bring in for Gameweek 23. But of course, again, before we do that, please can you make sure you hit that like button if you really are liking the actual content here, and also subscribe. I am on the road to 250. Really would appreciate your help. So yeah, guys, please help me out here. Really would love that. Thanks, man. Leave a comment, man. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is a bit different from what I usually do, and let me know if you really like it. Yeah, I want to talk strategy. I want to talk more valuable players, and yeah, cool. Let's get back to the content, Cat. Cool. So in terms of best players for this game week, starting in goals, I went for Pope. My other goalkeeper is Fabianski, just to save some actual money. I think that's really obvious because he's playing Southampton. Now, that could be Dubravka or that could be Pope. I think you will have to wait and see, but it is a Newcastle goalkeeper, and you'll see as to why. I'll be playing a 3-4-3 there, and of course I think Trent along Gabriel and Hall are the best options there in defense. I think these guys can definitely give you maximum points in your defense there, all capable of actually getting you attacking return as well. And I think evenly priced out, evenly spaced in terms of pricing from 5, 6 and 7.2 million. I think this could start telling you that my bench doesn't necessarily have all the money, but my starting 11 does, just to emphasize who are the best players I think you could be bringing in or thinking about bringing in. Just remember that game week 29, there is a blank possibly for the 4 teams that are in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. So make sure you keep that in mind, along with how many transfers you actually have, because that includes all 4 of these guys that I've just mentioned right now. Cool. In the midfield, of course, that backbone and spine of your team should be having a Salah, who has the captaincy, which we'll talk about in my team selection video. Then we have Palmer there against Man City, who I'm still confident to play and have in this team, considering Man City haven't necessarily been themselves, but they are slowly finding their way back to who they really were. Then we have Son there, who is somewhat the differential in the team. As I mentioned, this is somewhat more of a team which is a strong but has a few differentials here and there, because you can see a lot of the players here are somewhat template. So Pope being a differential and Son being a major differential, Rodgers being a template player there with a high ownership as well. And then in the strike force, opening up as well, we have Isak there, Gakpo and Wood, and you can see that is that trio of strikers right now, which I believe is the best front 3 in FPL. Looking at the bench there, we have Nico Williams, which I think is a good first option there, considering their defense is really good. Greaves to free up some money, and then Ethan Nwaneri coming back from injury. He is still currently flagged. I don't think he will feature in this Arsenal game in the midweek. Recording that just before the game. But him being back and playing in that right wing position for Saka, I think he evidently showed that he can fill in Saka's shoes. Not necessarily the same, hell no, but he's a lot more adequate than Sterling has shown to be, or anyone else who's played on that wing, to cause a distraction, to really help the team in opening up and creating more space for them there. So I think he's a really great cheap option and a great enabler in your team. So I think Ethan Nwaneri is definitely a player you can definitely go for. That is my team for the best players to actually bring in. And then now we're going to take a look at my differential team. So let's take a look at which players I think is the best differentials to actually have. Now, Raya, you can actually swap this if you want, is the person I have in goal. Remember, your differential team, you want to have a bit of more spine. You want to have some spine, of course, with players who are highly owned, but at the same time have more differential picks. And so Raya is the goalkeeper that I'm picking to actually be in goals there, just somebody to have as part of my backbone of the team. And then still sticking with the 3-4-3, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Cannot ignore that game against Ipswich, but I have brought in Pedro Porro, who is going to be playing Leicester at home, and I've got Lacroix there playing right next to him against Brighton, considering they are in form and playing Brentford at home as well. They're in form in keeping clean sheets, so hoping they could actually keep that in. I think he's a really great differential there, and that he's just a cheaper option. I think if you have the budget, you can definitely still go for Munoz. He is actually still a differential, so a very nice differential, or Tyreek Mitchell. So it's basically a Crystal Palace spot right there. And I have another differential on the bench, which we'll talk about when we get to that. Now in the midfield, of course, Salah forms part of that backbone, but I do think you can sacrifice Cole Palmer for a player who's in form right now, which is Phil Foden, and is cheaper as well. He is playing at home, so I think that is something more favorable. They did beat Chelsea in their first game in the season, and at the same time, they're slowly getting on their way back. Along with Phil Foden's form, City's finding their form as well, and so, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Chelsea, also because of Chelsea's form. They haven't necessarily been winning games, and I think coming up against a bigger team, of course, Chelsea won their previous game, but that was against Wolves, Coming up against a bigger team, I think it's going to be a even bigger test for them as well, and I don't think this is one they can get away with a draw. I think if they lose, they lead. If they do go ahead, or they actually go behind at any point, I think they might as well very well lose that game. And that's just my opinion, because we all know City, when they are in their stride, you cannot stop them. Going back into more differentials in the midfield, we've got a Luis Diaz there, who's very much a differential. I think, yes, we know who the best trio is for Liverpool, but he's a very nice differential, considering a lot of people will be going for that main Liverpool trio there. And he is getting those minutes as well. Like, we cannot shy away from that. He will play, I think, enough minutes for him to have a great impact. And I say that way more than Jota would have, because we just don't know. Jota he didn't start. I didn't see the game. I didn't watch the entire game, so I'm not sure if he was substituted in. But Diaz did start, and I think he will still start in the weekend, as well as in both games in the double game week. So I think great differential. Gordon, be honest, I didn't check his ownership, but I do believe he is also a differential, considering that he also has had some transfers, quite a few transfers out this game week, which strange, considering that he's playing Southampton. But I think he's also another great differential to actually have. Then going down, part of that backbone as well is Isak, of course, and then Watkins with the differential, as well as Mateta there being the other differential, just to complete that trio of strikers as well. So let's take a look at the bench there. Keeping Fabianski because he's a great enabler. Keeping Neco Williams is another great enabler. Then another differential in the Newcastle defense is a Livramento, who has been getting a lot of minutes there. And you can play him ahead of Lacroix. I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly. So I don't want to butcher his name nor say the wrong thing on YouTube, but I believe it's mentioned Lacroix. Please, in the comment section, let me know if it is Lacroix or Lecoq. Yeah, please don't tease me about that. But anyway, yeah, you can play him over that. I know there's the fear that, Trippier could be getting those minutes, or he could be the one that go, considering Shaw, Botman are back, and Hall is still playing on the left, and we're not sure if he could be taken out, sacrificed, so that Burn could still stay in. Whole big debate, just not for this one. But yeah, that's my differential team. So guys, if there is more content that you want to check out, like my transfer plans for this game week, check it out over here. and as well as some other more content for you guys over here. Please make sure that you hit that like button, really would appreciate it, as well as subscribe, which is the most important part. And I will see you guys in my team selection video tomorrow. Thank you.